Hey everybody, we are live. Welcome to the channel. My name is Justin, as always, and you're on Fast Entrepreneur. All right, let's get into it. Nothing I'm ever going to say is financial advice. Always do your own research. What I want to talk about today is, wait for it. I want to talk about Ray Dalio and his new book. There's a changing order out there, folks. What is this all about? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, welcome to the channel. Ray Dalio, he is one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the world. Bridgewater Associates, you can check him out. And I think what's made him so successful is his views, his principles, his experience. And so let's get into it. So Mr. Ray Dalio. Well, what this book, he's got other books too, if you're interested, and he's got some great content actually on YouTube, where if you're interested, he's put together between say 30 minutes or 45 minutes, kind of animated content about, like principles for success. But in this video, I want to talk about this idea of this changing world order. What does it mean? So I'll kind of skim the edges, if you will, of how I see it and what I think about it and why potentially it is so important, and how we ought to maybe start thinking about it for ourselves, our future, our families, our money, where we live, etc., what we invest in. So we got a dog over there. That's what we got. So we've got Mr. Dalio. It's a very interesting, unique experience, and he has spent some time, seeing the upcoming Chinese resurgence. And the way he paints it is he goes even further, but just to keep it simple, he says, okay, let's look at the four major empires in the last 500 years. So here, I'll give you a second. Do you think you can name them? The four major empires. And what we're talking about, the nations that basically, that they were the top dog. They were the top of the food chain during this time, and then maybe they weren't. And so, all right, so I gave you a few minutes. Maybe you got it, maybe you didn't. Let's start with the easy one. Right now, what nation on planet Earth is currently enjoying this position? And it looks like it is, since World War II, it is the United States. So we're currently in the United States, I'll call it empire, but you know what I mean. And, he defines what this means, why this comes about, how it comes about. And so if you look at, say, the U.S., the U.S. took down with a revolution against the British Empire. So that's the second, the one before the U.S. And so as the British Empire was declining, the up-and-coming American empire was on the rise. And with that being said, what ends up happening is, an educated populace, infrastructure growth, increased trade and prosperity, and ultimately, the lagging factor is that the currency of this nation state gets to enjoy, for some period of time, what we call the world's reserve currency. So if you're not familiar, the United States currently enjoys this world reserve currency status with the US dollar. This was done after World War II at Bretton Woods. You can look this up, but basically what this did is it allows, for the US dollar to kind of be the currency where you can go anywhere in the world, and instead you don't have to ask, hey, do you accept dollars? It's just It just is. And so, for the most part, I'm simplifying, but and there's huge benefits of having your nation or owning assets in this world reserve currency, as it can often be seen as a very stable or much more stable store of value, right? So if you store all your assets denominated in U.S. dollars, that has tended to be seen as a more stable, one of the most stable assets on planet Earth. Then you also have the ability to, as that country, right? Let's say they want to get things done, they want to get projects done, they want to, there's legislation that's passed, they want to pay for it. How do you do that? You can raise money, and you're often able to raise money quite easily and cheaply if you enjoy this currency, world reserve currency status. And so this is something that the U.S. has enjoyed for a while. And those dogs, they seem to agree. Let's go say hi to the dogs for a second. Hi, dogs. Hi, dogs. Look at them. Look at the dogs. They actually don't want to have much to do with me because there's other dogs walking by. They're howling at them. All right. So anyways, continuing on. So the world reserve currency as the US dollar, and it also gives you the ability to print basically, unending money. And now other countries also have this ability, but the world reserve currency, it holds a place in and of its, it just, it gives that country the ability to basically, ride this gravy train, ride this money train, this, as long as the rest of the world sees it that way, it's something that other countries are probably quite envious of. And, and so, we can look at, before this, there was the British Empire, right? The sun never set on the British Empire, so they say. And so we said there were four we're going to talk about. So we've spoken to. Anyone know who was before the British Empire? It was the Dutch. And if you look at the Dutch, a lot of the same similar characteristics, right? Increased trade. The Dutch East India Company. Hey dog, how you doing? Dutch East India Company. And the Dutch guilder as the currency. And so we've named 3 out of the 4, and where we're at now is, since World War II, the U.S. has held this position, but the Chinese are on the rise. They've been on the rise. Oh, we got more dogs across the. I tell you, this is just a day to be a dog, I guess. Let's take a look at this one. There he is. He's in the background. I don't think so. He's really. Look at that dog. But yeah. So anyway, so the Chinese are on the rise, and so what we often see is in the declining nations, you see imbalances of wealth. The gap between the rich and the poor can grow. You also see you can also see social unrest, right? You can see populist movements as the rich get richer and the poor seem to either get poorer or stay in the same place, and this can breed resentment. Sometimes it causes transitions of power. I got a flyer for you. I'll leave here for. And yeah, so we've got where were we? So we've got these changing world orders that are going on. And then there's also not only internal struggles, which could be peaceful transition to power, could be populist movements, or it could be, quite bloody and dangerous, and sometimes even pretty bad. And which, a lot of this stuff, as you're having a declining presence around the world, other countries don't want your debt as much. You're unable to, maybe perform a lot of the borrowing that you were previously doing with such ease. And at the same time, you've got, your competitor nations that are watching your every move. And if they see weakness, there may be conflict. And so, we've seen this time and time again throughout history, and it's not just the last 500 years, but, if you go throughout history, they don't always unfold quite the same way, but, the time frames and et cetera may differ, but the overall general principles. And with this, you get the declining of the old power, the rising up of the new power, and so goes the importance of the previous currencies. And so here we are today, right? How does this spell in? Well, up to this point, at least in my life, and probably in most people's lifetimes, if you're watching this, you probably have grown up post World War II. No, maybe not. Maybe not. But, that was how many years ago so far? So we're already we're coming on almost 80 years. So, had you had been growing up, you'd be, probably before then, you'd be probably closer to 90, 100 or above. But so if most of us are familiar with this post-World War II environment, and especially if you're in the United States, or, this is the environment that we're not used to these changing orders. These are long-term changes, and these are things that usually don't happen, within most of our lifetimes. If you look back in history, it certainly hasn't happened in our lifetime yet. But the Chinese have been on the rise, and if you look at the rates of, despite many, many metrics, the rates of growth, it does look like that at some point the importance of the U.S. and the U.S. dollar will lessen, and the increase of the Chinese influence and the Chinese way of life and monetary system will increase. Now, what I find is interesting, it's not like, there's, unless there's, flat out say World War, which no one wants, but this does happen, where there's, like a World War, unfortunately, because of the nature of the conflicts, can cause, clear winners and clear losers, and make those post-war environments a little bit more. Look at that field. Look at that park. But it can make the kind of the environments of what life looks like after these wars a little bit more concrete. But if you don't, what I see happening, I mean, I've talked a lot about, on this channel at least, exponential technologies, specifically like AI, artificial intelligence, and other exponential growing technologies that are converging, meaning that, it's not just AI in a bubble, it's AI combining with, many other technologies. And the Chinese seem to be, doing a very good job of leading in AI and educating. And, when you have great education, just think fast forward 10 years, these potentially could be, the growing entrepreneurs, growing governments the leaders of these and the owners of these technologies. And so because of the sheer power of this tech, I think that, in my opinion at least, I've talked about like Ray Kurzweil and his exponential law of accelerating returns. It appears to me that the future will look drastically different than anything that I could probably even imagine. With that being said, let's get back to the reserve currency, because up to this point, if I look back like stores of value and currencies throughout history, they were either something physical, like a physical, piece of gold or piece of silver or a shell, or something, just something that was a physical good. Now, whether or not it was a perfect currency or not, probably not, but or scarce. So when you look at things, say like blockchain or Bitcoin, is it possible that instead of having fiat currencies like we do with the US dollar or the Chinese yuan or whatever have you, that maybe digital currencies would be would actually take the place of the next world reserve currency? I do think it's possible. And what I'm not sure, I'm not convinced yet what that looks like, or maybe this dog will know. Let's take a look at this guy. Look at him, he's just sitting there, minding his own business. But I do think that, whether or not it is Bitcoin's been around now for 12, 13 years. I do think that because of its proof of work nature, it's maybe has some growing to do if it is going to have true mass adoption. But I do think that it's probably not going away anytime soon. And most of the ecosystem in crypto is built around Bitcoin. However, obviously I think we've entered for sure into the age of Ethereum, and now there's thousands of other coins. I think that in order to be a world's reserve currency, it certainly has to have massive adoption. And whether or not fiat currencies, for all their faults, will be going away, I'm not sure quite yet. My thinking on this, again, this isn't financial advice, just, me out walking and talking here. But my thinking is, when you look at fiat currencies, there is government involvement, and there's some sort of government control or government, policy. And I think while I do understand that the nature of potential DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and I could potentially see, virtual quote-unquote nation states where people, maybe you don't live in the same place, but whether or not you're, all part of a staking network or some sort of, metaverse, etc., where possibly it is possible that there does become a currency that certainly becomes large enough to potentially even rival the current fiat systems. So I think time will have to tell, because right now, while Bitcoin has hovered around $1 trillion in market cap, it's under at the moment. It's big, but it's not yet reached the adoption. But I could potentially see that happening in a short order. And so, perhaps even, it could happen within 5 years. It could happen shorter than 5 years. The question is will it be enough to? I'm not sure, and I'm not sure. I haven't. I don't know how. I'm just not sure. I really I can see the arguments. I don't know if it'll be Bitcoin, but I do think that Bitcoin would work very well as a world reserve currency. And I used to actually believe, I think I used to believe that Bitcoin would be the world reserve currency. So I don't want to sound like I'm, against that by any means. I'm probably more for it than I sound. However, I have a hard time seeing how current government structures, whether it's the Chinese, the EU, America, how they will or would want to just relinquish power that quickly. And so, but I do like the idea that in theory Bitcoin is that it is limited in supply. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, and in practice there actually will never be 21 million Bitcoin because some have either been probably lost to eternity, but either way there will never be more than that. However, I guess you could also, that's what people say, people also say that's the argument, is that Bitcoin, is finite, which I guess in theory it is finite, but in the way I think about it is, but a Satoshi is how many, like when you chop up a Bitcoin, right, you get decimal places, just like, I could say, well, there's only so many dollars, but yet you could chop up a dollar into 100 pennies. So I guess what I am trying to understand is that if you can, if we go by Satoshis and then there's no more divisibility, then okay, then potentially, instead of looking at 21 million, we have to look at, X number of Satoshis. That could never be any more than that. And perhaps that is possible. But listen, I guess that's possible. And I think that you'll always probably have derivative products that will divide these things up even further. But if we're just talking about a spot asset, but I still think that, the 21 million Bitcoin may be, I don't know if you agree with me, but it may be a little bit misleading in the fact that, you could say, well, how many Satoshis are ever going to be created? And, what's the value of a Satoshi? And maybe that's the finite limiting factor of the Bitcoin network. Now, in terms of, say, like Ethereum, Ethereum, they're claiming that Ethereum, by the way, used to be proof of work just like Bitcoin, but they'll be moving to proof of stake. And they're also trying to make this currency more deflationary. So what that means is they'll be taking supply out. They'll be burning a certain number of, Ethereum. But at the same time, there's always new Ether that's created, to reward, that'll be rewarding validators and blocks them. So while it will be less inflationary, the question is will it be completely deflationary? We will wait and see. Now, what else is there? We started talking about Dalio, but I feel like, in my mind, this is always morphing back into what is really going on now. And as much as I get excited about, crypto and the day-to-day and blah, 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 there really is a revolution. There is a movement that is happening, and it's way bigger. And we were talking about Dalio with the changing world order. And, for the most part, for most of what I can see in human history, like Dalio puts it, like, the names and the characters and, and maybe the tools change, right? So meaning like, whether it's, the names of the countries or the characters, the color of their skin or their customs or their tools, like, do they use guns? Do they use swords? Do they use, tanks, air missiles, whatever it might be, for battle. I think that those could be up for debate, but and they do change. Now, I guess the question that I'm asking myself is, what are these names, characters, and tools in the future? And if we're talking right now of a declining America and a rising Chinese system, the question is, is this old school way of thinking, or is there, what do I mean by that? Well, okay, so I can relate to, when we say the word Chinese, I can relate to, okay, maybe the people and the customs are different. And I could even relate to the fact that, okay, maybe technology is different, but we have become a much more globalized, interconnected world. And while we still have like nation states with, depending on where you live, your residency, your citizenship, etc., and the laws that govern within them, it looks like even these boundaries may at some point begin to blur. And I'm not sure that this will be anytime soon. But I can see us morphing with our technology so much to the point where, it may be difficult to be looking at the divisions between humanity as much as we might look at the similarities that are bringing us maybe closer to a singularity. And it's so interesting. It's just the singularity. So now let's just finish this up. Let's just have a conversation about the singularity, because I think I talk about this stuff, and sometimes people don't probably even know what I'm talking about. And if people do, maybe they're not. Maybe we're on the same page of how we're thinking that. Maybe we're not. But I'll just tell you a little bit about what I'm thinking. To me, when I came across two guys, one is Peter Diamandis, and another is Ray Kurzweil. These two guys kind of sum it up for me, and it made a lot of sense. If you don't know who they are, they're both co-founders of Singularity University. Singularity University looks at exponential growing technologies, equips entrepreneurs to build businesses to impact 1 billion people or more. But what does that mean? And so an exponential technology just grows faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And we have many technologies. I couldn't even count them all, on my two hands, probably fingers and toes. But the major ones like artificial intelligence, or say the, many in genomics, or nanotech, or robotics, they are maturing at a ever faster rate. They're building on one another. And so what looks like very far away, looks pretty crazy, may actually be not too far away at all. And Diamandis, if you look at what he has done just as an entrepreneur, coaching entrepreneurs, some people would look at these guys like, whoa, that's crazy, that's scary, that's freaky. Some look at, oh, that's so cool. Maybe some don't even know what he's talking about. And that's cool too. But at some point, this is going to affect humanity, in my opinion, at just like a wave that just goes, like crazy fast. And so the time frame, like a couple time frames, like Kurzweil, he'll put, say, 2045, the year 2045, as a time frame for the technological singularity. Now, what does he mean by that? Well, he gets the term from, I guess, a physics term where, where change gets so fast that you can't keep up with it unless you become like one in and of it. So this could mean that, we literally saturate, we become this, but we are, merged with our technology. We are saturating the universe with intelligence at just light year speeds. Now, to a mere mortal human being like myself, I mean, this even just sounds like, yeah, come on, yeah, right. But I'm sure everything that has come before us that now is there was a long time of, yeah, right. So, Kurzweil says, now this seems a little subjective, but 2029, so this is literally, 7 years from now, he believes that a computer will pass the Turing test, right? Or Alan Turing. And basically what that means, at least to me, is that a computer will get so brilliant and so intelligent that you won't be able to tell the difference between me and a computer, right? You won't be able to know the difference between AI and just biological life. And so, I mean, in terms of, does it matter? Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on what this AI does, what it looks like. And, but it could be good, it could be bad. I mean, we've all seen Terminator 2 style, things. It could be a good thing, it could be a not so good thing. And I do think that it is super important that the humans that are doing this now, and this is our lifetime, this is me and you, that we do get this right, at least for ourselves and what our place in the near future of humanity and beyond looks like. Kind of sounds like Buzz Lightyear, right? To infinity and beyond. If it does go wrong, then I guess that'll be just in the next chapter of maybe extinction of. There's nothing to say that humans can't go extinct, right? But then that also brings up a lot of spiritual just thoughts and conversations with either yourself, with your higher power, with other human beings. Is what does this mean if we are moving into a world where either you or me, or if you have kids coming into this world, to be growing up? Because I think about this, I have friends and family members say if you have a child today in 2022, so by the time they are 23 years old in a Kurzweil world, the singularity may have manifested. And so, this literally 23 years old, that's not a lot of time. I'm over 23. I've lived a human life, in some way, shape, or form. What does that mean, if you grow up in this? Or is it just is this the last hurrah for humans as we know it? Or will there be some, upgrade beyond that? Will someone 23 years from now even, will the same thoughts, of even having children, and raising families, will that even be a thing? Or will this just be it's, I laugh because, I laugh because I don't know, right? I truly don't know I don't think anybody knows truly what the future holds, but I do look, I think that, in my opinion, somebody like a Kurzweil and Don Manis, guys that are not only studying the future, getting it right for 34 years for the most part, and also building the future that we're now part of. I think that they hold a little bit of weight, and so that's why, I hold those thoughts. Now, in a, practical, okay, so what does that mean for me? I've thought about this with my own life. In some ways, do nothing, change absolutely nothing. maybe ignorance is truly bliss, and, continue to live your life day in, day out the way that you want to live it until it, I don't know, will it be forced upon you, or will it not? Or could, there's people that are still living today that, like in certain communities, whether it's Luddites or Amish or folks, or even just certain like indigenous people or people of poverty that have never had access. I guess maybe it is possible to survive. I don't know if that's maybe what people would always choose, but I guess that'd be up to you. Whether or not the same opportunities will be around. Will you be able to actually work and, and profit? Like, will capitalism still survive? I don't know, but it's basically the top system on the planet today. So, I guess that's all we got to work with until we don't. I will say there's people that live on, intentional communities. There's people that, do other things. There's nothing to say that it can't be done or that it's right or it's wrong. I think it's just a choice. I think everyone's got to make that choice. Do you want to adopt this new technology? Would you want to incorporate this new technology, into your own physical body as you know it, or would you want to incorporate it into your children's, new life? How do you make these decisions? What if you do? What if you don't? Right? Will your children be in a better position to thrive or not? I don't think anyone has the answers, and I don't think they ever have. I think that a lot of parents probably just make decisions based on what they think is best at the time, hopefully. But they're never perfect, and sometimes there are consequences for the children of the next generation, as they figure it out or as they find themselves in a different environment moving forward. But yeah, so on a time, I don't know if any of this helps nobody or nothing or whatever, but I'm out for, walking and talking, and I figured why not share some. There's a dog over there. I don't know if I like dogs like that. Sometimes it's hard to tell if the dogs are friendly or not, I don't know. I'm gonna go this way. Sometimes you can't tell. If you got dogs out, like on leashes, most of them, I'd say 90-something%, probably pretty good. But occasionally, every once in a while, you're just like, yo, dog, what are you doing? What are you doing out? And yeah, we'll see if we see the dog in the background. So, in terms of like what's coming, let's say it's from a Kurzweil point of view, 23 years to the singularity. And the crazy thing is, it's not like it's like it's not like a countdown to like New Year's Eve. We're like, hey, I feel pretty much the same. Oh, yay, party! Oh, that was okay. Well, how do you feel? Well, I feel good, but do you feel older? Well, maybe like a minute. No, it's like this stuff happens like gradually, and then more gradual. Not more gradual, but like more extra gradual, like more like quicker, and so we're going to start noticing these things, and the question is like, what do you do? Like even like now, right? Like say if you're thinking about, let's say you've worked your life, and now what if your money is going to get eroded by inflation, or what if your wealth gets eroded by a falling dollar because it's not as powerful around the world? How does that affect you? Can you still live out your retirement the way you want to, the way you have to, the way you need to? Or do you have to make some concessions? Or if you were to, plan ahead and potentially diversify away some of these risks, would that maybe save you? These are choices, because one way or the other, something's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to be. I could take my guesses, but yeah, it's crazy world we're living in. 23 years, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how old am I? I am, if you want to take a guess, how old am I? How old do you think I am? Huh? How old do I look? Look at my hair all brushed up. Look at me. I'm as young as I feel, that's what I say. But seriously, how old am I? So I'm like, what am I now? 38 years old. 38. So 23 years. I'm just going by the Kurzweil timeline. Listen, if the guy's off, then he's off. If it's before, then he's before. Then who knows? But something to think about. So 38 plus 23. What do I got there? I got 61 years old. I don't know about you, but I'm in the United States. They don't even let me collect Social Security. If that ain't a oxymoron I never heard. Woo! Social Security. Except they keep raising up the age on you and all this other nonsense and going broke. Not saying they couldn't, not saying the U.S. government and all that couldn't, change their ways and get that back on track. But, come on, let's be real. Doesn't look like it's going that way. But it could. Listen, these long-term trends, they take a long time. Somebody once told me, Justin, you can't stop a 787 on a dime. What did he mean by that? Heck if I know. Oh, man. Oh, wow. Yeah, so 61. I'll have to put put one of those age filters, one of those aging booth, app filters, see what I'm going to look like when I'm 61 years old. What's it going to be? Am I going to still be wearing this silly hat? Am I going to be my glass is going to be triple the thickness? Am I going to have wrinkles or no wrinkles? Still going to have all these teeth? Will I get a haircut by then or never? Hey, I don't know. At this route, keep it going. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, yeah. So, I think 61 years old. I don't know, what do y'all think? Y'all ever just stop and go for a walk or ponder to yourself any of this stuff and be like, whoa, man. I don't know. What do y'all think? How do y'all? For me, I don't think somebody wants to. You can't take yourself too serious. So I don't want to take myself too serious. But I also, think that there's serious stuff to be thought about for sure. There's things in life that require, work and money and all that other stuff. What else? How does it affect your, what you do, what you think about, conversations, how do you spend your life, yada, yada, yada. As for me right now, I try not to stress too much about nothing about this because, most of it's probably just out of my control. And I will leave this to... Oh, there's a cat. Oh, leave you be. Cats are usually not the problem, but you never know. Sometimes you get a cat. else we got? We got yeah, just, it's interesting stuff. I don't know, my mind now gets to a place where I got really nothing else. If you follow me this far, heck, what the heck you all doing with your lives? No, I'm kidding you. I appreciate y'all. You can tell I'm just talking out loud, and hey, if there's anything that I say, maybe it helps you or maybe it gives you something to think about. Most of the videos you'll see on this channel, I try to mix it up. Some are just for fun, singing in the car. Some are, hopefully educational and informative. Especially, you could tell I like the crypto world. It's been something that kind of been interested in for many years now. So trying to get my pulse on that and sharing information. How you use that is up to you. But I realize that a lot of people aren't into crypto, and there's a lot of other ways to make money, store money, think about money. Crypto to me it's higher. It's one of those higher potential risk, higher potential reward venues, but it's also exciting because to me it shows this evolution of humans, building tools. In this case, tool is technology, and the technology is the blockchain. And when I think about when I think about the blockchain, I think, wow, this is a transformative technology that will change potentially, most things in human life, finance, personal finance, global finance, governments, how we govern ourselves, how we govern our affairs, how we, contracts, law, supply chain. So it's just, there's so much more. I mean, it's just, it's I think the use cases, but and on a philosophical level, I see blockchain as kind of like a philosophy or an ability to help bring trust into a trustless world, right? If you're building things on immutable code, whether or not this exists or not, but I'm just, and things that are truly decentralized and distributed through public ledgers that are transparent. There's a ton of use cases. And it makes, so the philosophy that I see and the use case, it makes me really think about, well, how does this change the way we think about, whatever XYZ it is? Because you can't, in my opinion, you can't just think about the old world stuff in the same paradigm if there is something as transformative, as blockchain technology that could potentially, force you to have to rethink not only what you do personally or governments, business models, etc. And then finally, I think Kurzweil wrote this book called the Age of Spiritual Machines. I mean, to me, just the title kind of says it all. What the heck is a spiritual machine? And then I kind of ponder some of that too. At least just some of the top things on my head are like when I'm thinking out loud is when I'm talking about building trust into a trustless system, or could you take principles like kindness or love or whatever, can you build these into a computer that one day may be able to think, either at the level of humans or even at the level beyond humans or all humans? And, will a spiritual machine just, embody some of maybe the traits and characteristics that collectively, or the builders or humanity as whatever the subset or as a whole, that we aspire to, or that we admire, or, you know, whether it's in our leaders or whether it's, you know, in our qualities of a higher power. So it's very interesting. Very interesting stuff, for sure. And we'll have to wait and see. You know, I want to say thanks to anybody that's followed this channel and, you know, followed some rants. Hopefully, like I said, some stuff is helpful. And, you know, definitely I would encourage you, if this stuff does interest you, you know, check out some of this stuff on your own. You're welcome to, you know, write in the comments if you got questions, or if you have just thoughts of your own, if you want some resources or stuff that, you know, then, I mean, hey, maybe even some of you might even want to connect with me, and that'd be great too. I'm just a regular dude, and, you know, if there's ways that we can help one another or collaborate, just collaborate and listen. Ice is back with my brand new invention. Something like that. All right, stop. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. I'm on a roll. It's time to go solo. Rolling. I'm rolling. Well, my name is not Roland, but Rollin, but I guess it could be. Why not? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm walking on this field right now. It's not wet, but it's not dry. It's kind of like, you know, like that moist, wet, squishy. You know? Not sure what to make of it all. But I don't know. But you know what they say, when a fork's in the road, take it. Peace.